Okay. This is your listening task for the day. This is your section 1, and the instructions over here is one word and or a number. I'll be playing the recording. You need to first understand who the people are, about what they're talking, and कितने questions आपको पढ़ने का time मिला है. Okay?
To section 1.
ध्यान से सुनो.
Section 1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a woman who is looking for a job and a man from a company that organizes cycling holidays. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6.
You have time to look at questions 1 to 6. There is a woman who is looking for a job. He is going to call a person who is organizing cycling trips. ये instructions में आपने सुना भी अभी. Okay? Now look at the questions and try identifying what can come in each blank. थोड़ा सा rough predictions करो. Like आपको इतना पता होना चाहिए कि किस blank के अंदर word आएगा और किस में number आएगा, और word आएगा तो किस तरह का चाहिए, number अगर है तो किस तरह का चाहिए. Look at the first question. Wants a dash job. तो किस तरह का जॉब उसको चाहिए वो यहाँ पे पता लगाना है. तो किस तरह के जॉब होते हैं, डैश जॉब अगर बोला है उन्होंने, तो wants a full time job, part time job, wants a regular job, like that. Any word will come in the first one. You will soon start work as a dash. Will soon start work as a dash. So as a designation आएगा यहाँ पे, as a receptionist, as a pianist,
HR.
as an HR होगा, right? तो यहाँ पे आपको कोई भी एक कंसोनेंट से शुरू होने वाला वर्ड आएगा, क्योंकि ब्लैंक के पहले अ है, अ के बाद आने वाली चीजें कंसोनेंट होती है, इतना पता होना चाहिए. तो यहाँ पे आप ध्यान से वो सुनोगे, वो किस तरह से किस पोजीशन पे काम करने वाली है वो पता लगाओ. इन द थर्ड वन, हैज लेड साइकिल ट्रिप्स इन मतलब कोई जगह का नाम आएगा यहाँ पे. So let's say has led cycle trips in America, in Morocco, in China, in India, like that, or any place in cities like that भी हो सकता है कि in Surat, like that. Number 4 is currently doing voluntary work with members of a dash club. Members of a dash club, यहाँ पे क्या आएगा? Make a reasonable guess. क्या आ सकता है? मतलब क्या आएगा? क्या आ सकता है? Number 4. What are you looking for here? A tennis club, a football club, a health club. कोई भी क्लब से रिलेटेड नाम या कोई स्पोर्ट्स रिलेटेड कोई अगर क्लब होगा तो वो आएगा यहाँ पे. In the fifth one, available for 5 months from the 1st of dash. यहाँ पे कोई मंथ का नाम आएगा. 1st of January, April, May, June, July, August till December, any. Can't eat dash. So can't eat dash मतलब क्या नहीं खा सकता है. So can't eat meat, can't eat spices, can't eat vegetables, like that, right? या फिर fast food, इस तरह का आंसर कोई आएगा यहाँ पे. अब यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कि सेम वर्ड्स वो लोग नहीं बोलेंगे जो यहाँ पे लिख रहे हैं आपको. जैसे can't eat लिखा है तो ऐसा बोल सकते हैं कि eating fill in the blank is not allowed, for example. लाइक अगर यहाँ पे आंसर मीट है मान लो, तो कांट ईट मीट वो लोग डायरेक्टली नहीं बोलेंगे, लेकिन गिव यू इंफॉर्मेशन एज एन ईटिंग मीट इज नॉट अलाउड व्हेन यू आर इन द प्रीमाइसेस, लाइक दैट. समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखना, एग्जैक्ट सेम फ्रेजेस आपको सुनने में नहीं आएंगे, थोड़ा पैराफ्रेज करके बोलेंगे. आप अच्छे से सुनो and later you'll come to know how they speak and about what they speak and how you can get your answers. Okay, now I'm playing the recording. Pay very good attention. अभी थोड़ा सा टाइम मिलेगा आपको, एक बार वापस सारे ऑप्शंस क्वेश्चंस देख लो and then the audio will be played. Wants a dash job, will soon start work as a dash, has led cycle trips in dash, interested in being a leader of a cycling trip for families, is currently doing voluntary work with members of a dash club, available for 5 months from the 1st of dash, can't eat dash.
You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello, Pembroke Cycling Holidays. Bob speaking.
Oh, hello. I've seen your advert for people to lead cycle trips. Are you the right person to speak to?
Yes, I am. Could I have your name, please?
It's Margaret Smith.
The woman's surname is Smith. So Smith has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hello, Pembroke Cycling Holidays. Bob speaking.
Oh, hello. I've seen your advert for people to lead cycle trips. Are you the right person to speak to?
Yes, I am. Could I have your name, please?
It's Margaret Smith.
Are you looking for a permanent job, Margaret?
No, temporary. I've got a permanent job starting in a few months' time, and I want to do something else until then.
What work do you do?
This will probably sound crazy. I used to be a lawyer, and then I made a complete career change, and I'm going to be a doctor. I've just finished my training.
Right. And have you had any experience of leading cycle trips?
Yes, I've led several bike tours in Africa. The trip to India that I had arranged to lead next month has now been cancelled. So when I saw you were advertising for tour leaders, I decided to apply.
Okay. Now, we normally have 2 or 3 leaders on a trip, depending on the size of the group. Some tours are for very experienced cyclists, but we've got a tour coming up soon in Spain, which is proving so popular we need an additional leader. It's a cycling holiday for families. Would that suit you?
It certainly would. I enjoy working with children, and I probably need some more experience before I go on a really challenging trip.
That tour includes several teenagers. Have you worked with that age group before?
Yes, I'm a volunteer worker in a youth club where I help people to improve their cycling skills. Before that, I helped out in a cycling club where I taught beginners.
Well, that's great. Now, the trip I mentioned is just for a fortnight, but there might be the possibility of leading other tours after that. Would that fit in with your plans?
That'd be fine. I'll be free for 5 months. My job is due to start on October the 2nd, and I'm available from May the 1st until late September.
Good. Now, is there anything I need to know about the food you eat? We usually have 1 or 2 people in the group who don't eat meat or have some sort of food allergy, so we're always very careful about that.
Yes, I'm allergic to cheese. Would that be a problem?
No, as long as we have enough notice, we can deal with that.
That's great.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10.
You have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. चीज नहीं पसंद है उस बंदी को. Okay. Now look at questions 7 to 10. Do the same thing. Identify what kind of answers you need. Address 27 dash place, तो जगह का नाम आएगा. डमफ्राइज एरिया का नाम है. पोस्ट कोड, इंडिया में पोस्ट कोड कैसे होते हैं? नंबर के टर्म में, है ना. जैसे मेरा पोस्ट कोड है 395009. इस तरह से नंबर्स रहते हैं. बट जब आप इंडिया से बाहर जाओगे तो यू विल रियलाइज पोस्ट कोड्स आर नॉट ओनली इन टर्म्स ऑफ नंबर्स, दे आर अल्फा न्यूमेरिकल्स. अल्फा न्यूमेरिक्स का मतलब होता है अल्फाबेट्स भी होते हैं एंड नंबर्स भी होते हैं. तो यहाँ पे जब वो आपको पोस्ट कोड बताएंगे तो आपको ऐसा बोलेंगे कि जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल GH1440 लाइक दैट. एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ. तो दोनों सुनने के लिए रेडी रहना, यहाँ पे नंबर्स भी बोल सकते हैं, नंबर्स एंड अल्फाबेट्स दोनों आएंगे. देन इंटरव्यू एट 2:30 PM ऑन मतलब
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
कोई भी वीक का डे आएगा यहाँ पे. वेरी गुड. एंड इन नंबर 10 विल प्लान अ शॉर्ट डैश अबाउट बीइंग अ टूर गाइड. विल प्लान अ शॉर्ट डैश. मेक अ रीजनेबल गेस हियर. क्या आ सकता है आंसर? आपके दिमाग में ट्रिप आ रहा होगा,
Yes, sir.
लेकिन ट्रिप नहीं आ सकता है यहाँ पे आंसर. अबाउट बीइंग अ टूर गाइड. बीइंग अ टूर गाइड का मतलब क्या हुआ कि टूर गाइड होना कैसा होता है उसके बारे में शॉर्ट कुछ है जो वो देने वाली है. तो शॉर्ट इंटरव्यू हो सकता है, शॉर्ट रिव्यू,
Not.
शॉर्ट नोट हो सकता है,
Instruction.
शॉर्ट इंस्ट्रक्शंस हो सकता है, शॉर्ट डिटेल हो सकता है. इस तरह का कोई आंसर है जो आपको नंबर 10 के अंदर चाहिए. ओके, नाउ पे अटेंशन. एक बार वापस सारे पढ़ लो 7 to 10.
Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
7 to 10. Pay attention.
It sounds really interesting. Would you like me to fill in an application form?
Yes, please. Where should I post it to?
Could you send it to 27 Arbuthnot Place, Arbuthnot Place, Dumfries,
And what's the postcode, please?
DG7 4PH.
Was that P Papa or B Bravo?
P Papa.
Got that. If you could return the application form by Friday this week, we can interview you on Tuesday next week. Say 2:30? Would that be possible for you?
Yes, it's fine. You're quite a long way from where I live, so I'll drive over on Monday. Should I bring anything to the interview?
We'll have your application form, of course, but we'll need to see any certificates you've got that are relevant in cycling, first aid, or whatever.
Okay.
And at the interview, we'd like to find out about your experience of being a tour guide. So, could you prepare a 10-minute talk about that, please? You don't need slides or any complicated equipment, just some notes.
Right. I'll start thinking about that straight away.
Good. Well, we'll look forward to receiving your application form and we'll contact you to confirm the interview.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Margaret. Goodbye.
Bye.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You have half a minute to check your answers. Check all them spellings you have written. अगर कुछ miss हो गया हो, to make a reasonable guess, because in IELTS you don't have negative marking. Take 30 seconds.
Now turn to section 2.
Now, turn to section 2. Visiting the sheep market area.
Section 2. You will hear a podcast about an area called the sheep market in a New Zealand city. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
11 to 14 पढ़ने का time मिला है, and you're going to hear a talk about sheep market. कहाँ पर है ये sheep market? Instruction में इन्होंने बताया था, remember? सुना था कि नहीं सुना आप लोगों ने?
न्यूजीलैंड बोले शायद
न्यूजीलैंड, श्योर?
शायद
शायद क्या होता है? वैसे एमसीक्यू को टैकल करने के लिए आपकी कोई स्ट्रेटेजी है? just read the questions. That's the best strategy, right? कि जब भी आपको MCQs एग्जाम में आएंगे ना, the best strategy is to read only the questions if the questions are long. And यहाँ पे questions actually काफी long है, right? So by the time you will read all the questions and options, दो पढ़ोगे आपका टाइम खत्म हो जाएगा. एग्जाम में इतना ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं मिलता पढ़ने के लिए, right? So strategy simple रखो, आप questions पढ़ो अच्छे से और पता लगाओ कि किस तरह का आंसर आपको चाहिए. फिर जैसे ही आपका ऑडियो प्ले हो जाएगा, दे विल नॉट डायरेक्टली स्टार्ट विद नंबर 11, राइट? वो थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड डिटेल देंगे आपको इस एरिया के बारे में. वो आपका टाइम होगा ये ऑप्शंस पढ़ने का. थोड़ा सा स्ट्रेटेजिकली आगे बढ़ना है, वरना एमसीक्यू में सबसे ज्यादा लोगों के आंसर्स गलत होता है. ओके, तो स्ट्रेटेजिकली अगर आगे बढ़ना हो, दिस इज द बेस्ट स्ट्रेटेजी यू कैन यूज. रीड जस्ट द क्वेश्चंस, ट्राई आइडेंटिफाइंग व्हाट काइंड ऑफ आंसर्स यू नीड in all the questions, and once the audio is played, when the audio is giving you detail about what is going to come in the recording, read these options carefully. So फटाफट ये read करो. Which is the most rapidly growing group of residents in the supermarket area? The supermarket area के अंदर सबसे fast growing residents कौन है, right? The speaker recommends the the side streets in the supermarket for their dash. उनके किस चीज के लिए? Clothes designed by entrants for the young fashion competition must का मतलब होता है compulsion, right? So compulsion किस चीज के ऊपर आ रहा है वो पता लगाओ. Car parking is free in some car parks if you, कि कार पार्किंग जो है कुछ जगहों पे फ्री है. अगर आप क्या करोगे तो वहां पे आपको कार जो है फ्री में मिलेगी, फ्री में पार्क कर सकते हो. ओके, ध्यान से अभी जैसे ऑडियो शुरू हो, आप फटाफट ये ऑप्शंस पढ़ना शुरू कर देना. यू विल कम टू नो यू गेट अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम टू रीड द ऑप्शंस.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14. Welcome to this podcast about the sheep market, which is one of the oldest parts of the city. As its name suggests, there was originally a market here where farmers brought their sheep, but now it's been redeveloped into a buzzing, vibrant area of the city, which is also home to one of the city's fastest growing communities. The nearby university has always meant the area is popular with students who come in to enjoy the lively nightlife. But now graduates embarking on careers in the worlds of fashion and design are buying up the new apartments recently built here to replace the small houses where the market workers used to live. The narrow old side streets are great places for finding original pictures, jewellery and ceramics which won't break the bank, as well as local produce like fruit and vegetables. There's also lots of pavement cafes where you can have a coffee and watch tourists from all over the world go by. The oldest buildings in the area are on the main streets, including the city's first department store, built in the 1880s, which is still open today. The sheep market is a centre for fashion, and there's a policy of encouraging new young designers. The Young Fashion Competition is open to local young people who are passionate about fashion. This year, they've been asked to design an outfit based on ideas from the music and technology that's part of their everyday life, using both natural and man-made fibres. The garments will be judged by a panel of experts and fashion designers, and the winning entries will be modelled at a special gala evening. Parking at the sheep market is easy. There are plenty of pay and display car parking spaces on the roadsides, which are fine if you just want to stay for an hour or two. But if you want to spend the day there, it's better to park in one of the 4 underground car parks. It's not expensive, and if you can present a receipt from one of the local stores, you'll not be charged at all. After 6 p.m, many of the car parks have a flat rate which varies, but it is usually very reasonable. Before you hear the rest of the podcast, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20.
15 to 20. Check. Art and history in the sheep market. मैप गिवन है और यहाँ पे सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट जो आपको ध्यान में रखने वाली चीज़ है वो है आपके prepositions, बिकॉज अगर आपको डायरेक्शंस की समझ थोड़ी सी कम है तो इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी अ टफ राइड, एल्स इट्स वेरी इजी। आपको सिर्फ ये पता लगाना है कौन सी चीज़ कहाँ पर है। आंसर्स में ABCDEFG लिखोगे आप। ये ऑलमोस्ट सारी चीज़ें हमेशा ऑर्डर में रहती हैं, तो इसको रीड करने से बेटर जब आपको टाइम मिलेगा पढ़ने के लिए एग्जाम के अंदर तो ये डायग्राम को अच्छे से अंडरस्टैंड करो, पता लगाओ कौन सी चीज़ें हैं जो गिवन है, कहाँ कहाँ पे लोकेटेड है, नॉर्थ वेस्ट ईस्ट साउथ, आपको डायरेक्शंस क्लियर होनी चाहिए। जैसे सबसे साउथ में आपके पास एक रोड है जिसका नाम है क्रॉली रोड, ईस्ट साइड पे आपके पास एक रोड है जिसका नाम है सिटी रोड, देन बैंक है आपका नॉर्थ वेस्ट साइड पे, नॉर्थ साइड पे आपके पास एक और रोड है हिल रोड। ABCD का लोकेशंस देखो कहाँ पर है, ये A है, यहाँ पे B है, देन CDEFGHI। ओके, ये स्ट्रेट रोड है, ये एक जिगजैग रोड है, थोड़ा सा कर्वी रोड भी बोल सकते हैं इसको। पब्लिक गार्डन है यहाँ पे जिसके आजू बाजू जो आपका सिटी रोड के आसपास है। स्टेशन स्क्वायर है। अभी when the audio will be played आपको अच्छे से सुनना है कि ये सारी जगहें कहाँ पर है, फॉलो करते जाओ। जब भी जैसे वो बोलेंगे ना कहाँ पर आप हो, कहाँ से शुरू हो रहा है, तो वहां से आप अपने आप को फॉलो करो इसके अंदर, विल गेट इट। जरा भी ध्यान इस
Now
पे हटना नहीं
listen
चाहिए।
and answer questions 15 to 20.
15
The
to
sheep
20।
market is one of the main centres for art and history in the whole of the country. If you look at our map, you'll see some of the main attractions there. Most visitors start from Crawley Road at the bottom of the map. The Reynolds House is one of the oldest houses in the city and is open to the public. It's on the north side of Crawley Road, next to the footpath that leads to the public gardens. The area is particularly interesting for its unusual sculptures. The thumb is just what its name suggests, but it's about 10 metres high. You'll see it on Hill Road, across the road from the bank. The museum's got a particularly fine collection of New Zealand landscapes. It's on the east side of the sheep market on City Road. It's on the other side of the road from the public gardens, immediately facing the junction with Hill Road. The Contemporary Art Gallery is on a little road that leads off Station Square, not far from the public gardens. The road ends at the gallery. It doesn't go anywhere else. That's open every day except Mondays. The Warner Gallery specialises in 19th century art. It's on City Road, near the junction with Crawley Road, on the same side of the road as the public gardens. It's open on weekdays from 9 to 5 and entry is free. Finally, if you're interested in purchasing high quality artwork, the place to go is Nucleus. You need to go from Crawley Road up through Station Square and east along Hill Road until you get to a small winding road turning off. Go up there and it's on your right. If you get to City Road, you've gone too far.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Got it? Now check your answers. अगर कुछ मिस हो गया हो तो make a reasonable guess. Again, files में negative marking नहीं होती है. And also you cannot listen to the recording second time.
Now turn to section 3.
Turn to section 3.
Section 3. You will hear two students, Katie and Joe, discussing a presentation in their film studies course. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24.
You have time to look at questions 21 to 24. One word only is the limit given. Presentation on film adaptation of Shakespeare's plays. Stage of presentation. work still to be done. Introduce Janety's book training a dash of adaptations. Ask class to suggest the dash adaptations. Prepare some dash. Discuss the relationship between adaptation and dash at the time of making the film. Read again by yourself. एक बार खुद पढ़ लो सारे आंसर क्वेश्चंस. Introduce Genati's book containing a dash of adaptation. क्या contain करता है वो about adaptation. Ask class to suggest the dash adaptation. Class को suggest करने दो किस तरह का adaptation है वो. Prepare some dash. कुछ क्या prepare करना है वो पता लगाओ. Relation between adaptation and dash. दो चीजों के बीच का रिलेशन चाहिए. एक है adaptation, दूसरा कौन सा है वो सुन के आपको पता लगा. Now, be very
Now
good
listen
attention.
carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
21 to 24.
Joe, you know I'm giving a presentation in our film studies class next week.
Yes.
Well, could we discuss it? I could do with getting someone else's opinion.
Of course, Katie. What are you going to talk about?
It's about film adaptations of Shakespeare's plays. I've got very interested in all the different approaches that film directors take.
Uh-huh.
So I thought I'd start with Gianetti, who's a professor of film and literature. And in one of his books, he came up with a straightforward classification of film adaptations based on how faithful they are to the original plays and novels.
Right.
I've already made some notes on that, so I just need to sort those out before the presentation. I thought that next I'd ask the class to come up with the worst examples of Shakespeare adaptations that they've seen and to say why. That should be more fun than having their favorite versions.
Yes, I can certainly think of a couple.
Right. Next, I want to talk about Rachel Malco. I came across something on the internet about her work on film adaptations, and I was thinking of showing some film clips to illustrate her ideas.
Will you have enough time, though, both to prepare and during the presentation? After all, I doubt if you'll be able to find all the clips you want.
Perhaps you're right. Okay, well, I'd better do some slides instead, saying how various films relate to what she says. That should encourage discussion. Next, I want to say something about how plays may be chosen for adaptation because they're concerned with issues of the time when the film is made.
You mean things like patriotism or the role of government?
Exactly. It's quite tricky, but I've got a few ideas I'd like to discuss.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30.
25 to 30. देखो ये जो फिल्म्स गिवन है ये ऑर्डर में आएंगी. आपको जब टाइम मिलेगा पढ़ने के लिए तो यू नीड टू रीड ऑल दीज sentences. Clearly shows the historical period, contains only part of the play, is too similar to another kind of film, turn out to be unpopular with audience, present the play in a different period from the original, sets the original in a different country. वैसे country का synonym nation भी होता है, keep that in mind. another part of country भी बोल सकते हैं, another part of the world, and that incorporate with a variety of art forms. Pay attention.
Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
And finally, I want to talk about a few adaptations that I think illustrate a range of approaches and make some comments on them. Do you know the Japanese film Ran?
I haven't seen it. It was based on Shakespeare's King Lear, wasn't it?
That's right. It was a very loose adaptation, using the same situation and story, but moving it to 16th century Japan instead of 16th century Britain. So, for example, the king's daughters become sons, because in Japanese culture at that time, women couldn't succeed to the throne.
Okay, I hope you're going to talk about the 1993 film of Much Ado About Nothing. I think that's one of the best Shakespeare films. It really brings the play to life, doesn't it?
Yes, I agree. And I think filming it in Italy, where the play is set, makes you see what life was like at the time of the play.
Absolutely. Right, what's next?
Next, I thought Romeo and Juliet, the 1996 film, which moves the action into the present day.
Yes, it worked really well, I thought, changing the two feuding families in the original to two competing business empires, even though they're speaking in the English of the original play.
You'd expect it would sound really bizarre, but I found I soon got used to it.
Me too.
Then I thought I'd include a real Hollywood film, one that's intended to appeal to a mass commercial audience.
There must be quite a number of those.
Yes, but I've picked the 1996 film of Hamlet. It included every line of the text, but it's more like a typical action hero movie. There are loads of special effects, but no unifying interpretation of the play.
All show and no substance.
Exactly. Then there's Prospero's books, based on The Tempest. That was really innovative from a stylistic point of view.
Didn't it include dance and singing and animation as well as live actors?
Yes, it did. I also want to mention Looking for Richard. Did you ever see it?
No, but I've read about it. It was a blend of a documentary with a few scenes from Richard III, wasn't it?
That's right. It's more a way of looking into how people nowadays connect with the playwright. The play is really just the starting point, and that'll be where I finish.
Well, it sounds as though it'll be very interesting.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You've got half a minute to check your answers. Ran, Much Ado About Nothing, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Prospero's book, Looking for Richard. Clearly shows the historical period, contains only part of the play, is too similar to another kind of film, turn out to be
Now
unpopular with
turn
audience.
to section 4.
Ready for section 4? Noise in cities, it is. See, यहाँ पे आपके पास instructions already given है, one word only, so you cannot expect numbers to come over here. The only answers you need are one word answers. Pay very good attention to the recording. अभी आपको सुनाई देगा कि instructions क्या है, कौन है जो पूरा ऑडियो बोलने वाले हैं, किस टॉपिक के बारे में है. Pay attention.
Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture about noise in cities. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
(31 to 40). Read all the questions carefully. Number 31. Noise maps. Do not show other sources of noise. Example, when windows are open or people's neighbors are in their dash. तो लोगों के जो नेबर होते हैं वो कहाँ होते हैं? In their kitchen, in their balcony, in their corridor, like that. Any word will come here. Number 32. Have made people realize that the noise is a dash issue that must be dealt with. Okay, noise is a serious issue, crucial issue, important issue. ऐसा कोई word है जो यहाँ पे आएगा, आ सकता है. Problems caused by noise, sleep disturbance होता है, increase in amount of stress होता है, effects on the dash of स्कूल चिल्ड्रन, स्कूल जाने वाले बच्चों के किस चीज के ऊपर उसका असर होता है? तो बच्चों की पढ़ाई पे असर हो सकता है, उनके स्लीप पैटर्न पे हो सकता है. Different types of noise. Some noises can be considered pleasant. Example, the sound of a dash in a town. कि कुछ तरह की जो नॉइस होती है वो प्लीजेंट मतलब अच्छी भी हो सकती है, जैसे कि कोई एक नॉइस जो कहीं से आ रही है इन अ टाउन, वो पता लगाओ कैसी नॉइस, कहाँ से आ रही है नॉइस जो प्लीजेंट होती है. To investigate this, researchers may use methods from dash science. Example, questionnaire. तो किस तरह के साइंस की बात हो रही है वो पता लगाओ जहाँ से वो इंफॉर्मेशन निकालने वाला है. क्वेश्चनेयर के टर्म्स में एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे गिवन है. What people want, plenty of activity in urban environment which are dash but also allow people to relax. तो देखो यहाँ पे विच आर डैश बोला है और डैश के बाद बट आया है और बट के बाद बोल रहे हैं पीपल टू रिलैक्स, और रिलैक्स करना इज अ पॉजिटिव साइन. तो यहाँ पे आपका जो वर्ड आएगा वो कोई नेगेटिव वर्ड आएगा, कीप दैट इन माइंड. कभी भी यहाँ पे कॉमा है और कॉमा के बाद बट है और बट के बाद अगर पॉजिटिव बात हो रही है तो बट के पहले नेगेटिव आंसर आएगा. अगर बट के बाद नेगेटिव कॉन्टेक्स्ट है तो ऊपर बट के पहले पॉजिटिव आती है बात, ये याद रखना. फिर 37. Do not get much dash in acoustics. Acoustic के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा क्या मत करना. 38. Understanding sound as an art form. How sound relates to dash. कैसे sound किसी चीज़ को relate करता है वो पता लगाओ. Whether physics can help us understand the dash of sound. कि physics हमको sound को समझने में कैसे मदद कर सकता है, साउंड की किस चीज को समझने में मदद कर सकता है वो आपको यहाँ पे पता लगाना है. Then the last one, done. Now pay attention and get ready to listen to the recording. Come on, number 31. Do not show other sources of noise. Example, when windows are open or people's neighbors are in their dash.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
This lecture will be about the science of acoustics, the study of sound in relation to urban environments such as cities. As an acoustic engineer myself, I think this is an area where we're likely to see great changes. In the past, researching urban soundscapes was simple. We measured levels of sound in decibels. So I used to take my sound meter and I measured the noise somewhere. And then I might ask a sample of people to say at what level the sound became annoying. With data like this, acoustic engineers have been able to build up what we call noise maps, maps of the sound environment. But actually, these aren't a lot of use. What they do show is that the highest noise levels are generally on roads. Well, that's not really very surprising. But there's quite a lot going on that these maps don't show, because they can't capture the complex way that sound varies over time. So they ignore important issues such as the noise someone might hear from the open windows or gardens of their neighbours. And this sort of noise can be quite significant in summer. We don't have any databases on this sort of information. As well as that, these records of sound levels take no account of the fact that people vary in their perceptions of noise. So someone like me with years of working in acoustics might be very different from you in that regard. But anyway, even though these noise maps are fairly crude, they've been useful in providing information and raising awareness that noise matters. We need to deal with it. And so it's a political matter. And that's important. We need rules and regulations because noise can cause all sorts of problems. Those of you who are city dwellers know that things go on 24 hours a day, so city dwellers often suffer from interrupted sleep. It's also known that noise can lead to a rise in levels of stress due to physical changes in the body affecting the composition of the blood. And there are other problems as well. For instance, if school children don't have a quiet place to study, their work will suffer. Now, one problem with decibel measurement is that it doesn't differentiate between different types of noise. Some types of sounds that most people would probably think of as nice and relaxing might well score quite highly in decibel levels. Think of the sound made by a fountain in a town square, for example. That's not necessarily something that we'd want to control or reduce. So maybe researchers should consider these sorts of sounds in urban design. This is going to be tricky because just measuring decibel levels isn't going to help us here. Instead, many researchers are using social science techniques, studying people's emotional response to sound by using questionnaires and so on. So what exactly do people want to hear in an urban environment? Some recent interdisciplinary research has come out with results that at first sight seem contradictory. A city needs to have a sense of activity, so it needs to be lively, with sounds like the clack of high heels on a pavement or the hiss of a coffee machine. But these mustn't be too intrusive, because at the same time, we need to be able to relax. One of the major problems in achieving this will be getting architects and town planners to use the research. Apart from studying the basics of acoustics, these people receive very little training in this area. But in fact, they should be regarding sound as an opportunity to add to the experience of urban living, whereas at present, they tend to see it as something to be avoided or reduced as far as possible, or something that's just a job for engineers, like the street drainage system. What's needed is for noise in cities to be regarded as an aesthetic quality, as something that has the qualities of an art form. If we acknowledge this, then we urgently need to know what governs it and how designers can work with it. We need to develop a complex understanding of many factors. What is the relationship between sound and culture? What can we learn from disciplines such as psychology about the way that sound interacts with human development and social relationships, and the way that sound affects our thoughts and feelings? Can we learn anything from physics about the nature of sound itself? Today's powerful technologies can also help us. To show us their ideas and help us to imagine the effect their buildings will have, architects and town planners already use virtual reality, but these programs are silent. In the future, such programs could use realistic sounds, meaning that soundscapes could be explored before being built. So hopefully, using the best technology we can lay our hands on, the city of the future will be a pleasure to the ears as well as the eyes.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
You have half a minute to check your answers. Mill answers?
Yes, sir.
It was easy, right?
That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test,
Okay, now I'll take you down to your answers. एक बार answers सारे verify कर लो. Then we'll have a talk. Check your answers.